In this video, we are talking about the open and the closed circulatory systems in case of invertebrates and vertebrates. Now students, before starting the topic, I should explain to you that why they are called as open and closed circulatory systems. Now if we consider our circulatory system, or the circulatory system of human, there is no particular place where the blood is open and is in contact with the tissues. So we have got an organ which we call it as a heart, and secondly we have got some vessels. So these vessels, they are the arteries, or they can be the capillaries. They can be small arterioles, they can be small venules, they can be some veins, and they can be some big aortae. So these are all kinds of vessels which are a part of the circulatory system. Now, the blood is enclosed in these vessels or it is inside the heart. So there is no as such open space where it is in the direct contact of the tissues. So that's why we call it as a closed circulatory system. On the other hand, if we talk about some insects, they have a cavity around their heart which is called as the pericardial cavity. There are basically three types of cavities in the insect body. So if you go by the anatomy of the insect, of a typical insect, you will find these open spaces. So there are some spaces which are called as sinuses. So sinus is also an open space where the tissues, they float in blood. They are bathed in blood, or here we call it as hemolymph. So that is a kind of open circulatory system. So in the coming slides, we'll be taking up one by one, and we will clear the concepts of open and closed circulatory systems by some examples also. So let us start with it. The first and the foremost thing is that what is circulatory system and why do we have a circulatory system in our body? So the circulatory system is a combination of basically two things. Number one, this is an organ. So organ can be the heart. It can be some pulsatile vessel. Like in some organisms, you have some pulsatile vessels, long vessels. Like in the case of earthworm, you have got a dorsal vessel over there. So dorsal vessel is pulsatile and it is having some valves also in the case of earthworm. So here, that pulsatile vessel can be taken as an organ also. But in case of all the vertebrates, we have got hearts. So that is the first part of the circulatory system. So that is an organ. And second part, these are the vessels. So vessels, as I have already told you, that these can be the arteries, they can be arterioles, they can be your capillaries, the venules, the veins, the aorta, they are the vessels. Now, the main function of the blood is to take up the blood gases. It can be like oxygen, it can be carbon dioxide. So it is the transportation of gases and nutrients throughout an organism. So this is the basic function of circulatory system. So the ultimate function of the blood or the circulatory system is that to transport the gases and nutrients to each and every body part, to each and every body tissue. So that is the basic function. So if we achieve this function with the help of a circulatory system which is closed, which is the blood is enclosed in vessels, So that we call it as a closed circulatory system. If the blood is in direct contact with the tissues, that will be an open type of circulatory system. So there are some basic concepts. These are very basic, or you have gone through these concepts before, so I will not be taking much time on this. So we have got some arteries that are taking the blood from the heart to the tissues. So those arteries, they have got oxygenated blood. We all know this. And there is a artery which is taking the deoxygenated blood. That is the pulmonary artery. So the veins, they are small tube-like structures, and they are taking the deoxygenated blood from the organs to the heart. Generally, the veins, they are somewhat pulsatile. They have got valves also to prevent the backflow. As you can very well see on the lower right diagram, the vein has got the valves. So this is the valve inside a vein which is preventing the backflow, and the blood only it is going towards the heart. Otherwise the blood can flow back also. But if you see the back of your hand, you can see numerous blue and green colored vessels. So all these vessels are the veins, and these veins are taking blood from your hand to the heart. Now where are the arteries then? So the arteries, they are somewhat thicker than the veins, and they are present deep in the muscles. So you cannot see arteries inside or below your skin. So these blue colored vessels, they are all veins. These are not arteries. Okay, now, the capillaries are the joining blood vessels in between an artery and a vein. If you see the first diagram, the lower first, so these are the capillaries, and these are joining the artery with the vein. So this is the part where these two join with the help of the capillaries. Now about capillaries, these are the finest, thinnest vessels of your body. So as they are thin, nutrients and gases, they can diffuse out of these capillaries, or the gases or nutrients can penetrate these capillaries and go to the blood. So that is a two-way motion, that is a two-way locomotion of the nutrients and the gases. So because the capillaries are very thin, that these are single-celled thick, so that's why the things can pass out or pass into the capillaries. So these blood vessels, they are a major component of the circulatory system. So if we take the closed circulatory system into account, so first of all we are taking the closed type of circulatory system, and here it is shown in the diagram. This is a closed circulatory system of a fish. You might know, you might have gone through this part, that fishes have got a particular heart which is called as a venous heart. So venous heart refers to the heart which is every time it has got the deoxygenated blood. So fishes, they don't have got a double kind of circulation. So their heart has only and only deoxygenated blood in it. Now there is I think, the color of the blood should be blue in the heart. So this is a mistake in this particular diagram. So the heart should be blue as it is a venous heart. It is containing the deoxygenated blood, and this blood, it is going to the gills for oxygenation. So we have a ventral aorta, a single ventral aorta in case of fishes. So here what we have is that the fishes, they have a ventral aorta, and the blood is going to the gills for oxygenation. Now from the gill, the blood after oxygenation, now it is oxygenated blood, it is going to different organs of the body of the fish. So that is the dorsal aorta. So here we have the ventral aorta. This is the ventral aorta. It is taking the deoxygenated blood into the gills. Here it is oxygenated. Now it is into the dorsal aorta. It is going into the organs. After the organs use the oxygen of this blood, it again becomes deoxygenated. So it is coming back into the heart. So heart is having the deoxygenated blood and it is pumping it into the gills. So as you can well see in this particular diagram, there is no place where the blood is out of these vessels. So that is a closed type of circulatory systems. So this is the diagram of a fish. If you take a reptile, if you take a bird, if you take a mammal, if you take any vertebrate or a frog, they all have the closed circulatory systems. Now, how this system works and what is the importance or what is the significance of closed systems? Now, it circulates the blood unidirectionally from the heart around the body and back to the heart. So this is a very, very important aspect of the closed systems, that this system is unidirectional. Now, the blood is pumped by a heart which is situated somewhat in the middle of the body. So throughout the body in a continuous circuit of different types of vessels. So what is the importance? That suppose if an animal is very big in size, suppose of a giraffe. Now giraffe has a very long neck and the heart is present near the stomach in the trunk of the giraffe. Now how the blood will go up to the head? So it needs a good blood pressure. And the closed systems, they can exert very good blood pressures throughout the body of the animal. And this is a very, very important significance of the closed circulatory systems, that they can generate higher blood pressure in their vessels. So as we take the blood pressure, as the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of the arteries or veins, so in the closed systems, we have got higher pressures. In the open systems, you cannot maintain higher pressures as you have got open spaces. So this is a very important significance of the closed systems. Secondly, if the body of the animal is quite large in size, just think about a whale swimming in water, in ocean. So the heart in the fishes is somewhat ventral in position. So as you can see well in this second diagram, in a fish, this is the position of the heart. So it is ventral in position and it is pumping first of all the blood into the gills. It becomes oxygenated, it goes back into the organs. So these are the capillaries of the organs. It is becoming deoxygenated and again it is coming into the heart. So suppose this fish is a whale and it is very big in size. So it has to push the blood up till the tail or the caudal end of the fish. So the blood can be pushed or the blood can be thrown at great distances. So this is another significance of the heart or the closed systems, that the blood can be pushed to each and every body part of the large animals. So this is a very important kind of aspect of the closed systems. Now, these are few of the examples of the animals which are having the closed kind of circulatory systems. Now, if you go by a bird, it is having a closed system. If you go by a fish, again a closed system. This is a bear, you take a frog, you take earthworm, you take a human. These are all having the closed systems of circulation. So among these examples, I have taken the example of a earthworm. It is an invertebrate, but still it has got a closed system of circulation. In this part of the video, we are talking about the open type of circulatory systems. So students, in the previous slides, we have discussed about the closed type of system. Now here we are referring to as the open type of circulatory system because it has got some basic characteristics which follow the rule of the open type. And this type of circulation is present in various invertebrates, like you can give examples of a crayfish, a cockroach. So if you get a question in your examination, so you can give these examples. Now, what is an open type of circulatory system? So first of all, in these invertebrates, we call the blood as the hemolymph. So hemolymph is seen in animals that have this type of circulatory system. And this system, it consists of, again, 2 or 3 things. So here we have got 3 things. Number 1, these are the organs or the pumping organs. So in the lower diagrams, you can very well see the heart. So this is the heart. This is an example of a crayfish. And this is a heart which is showing a typical heart of the open type of circulatory system. So we have got hearts in open type of circulation. Number 2, they are the blood vessels. So here we have the blood vessels as we have the aorta. In case of cockroach, we have the aorta. In case of crayfish, we have got 2 aortae. So here, so these are the blood vessels. And third thing which is very, very important for open circulatory system is the open space. So this is the main characteristic feature of the open circulatory system, the third thing. So if you see the right side diagram which shows the open type of circulatory system, so this is the heart. From heart, the blood goes towards the anterior side of the body. And this blood reaches an open space which is called as the hemocoel. So this space is also called as the sinus. So this is the space where the blood is poured. So here the blood is open and it is open to the internal organs. So here the tissues, they bathe inside this particular hemolymph. So the hemolymph, it is taken up by the internal organs. The oxygen is used. The deoxygenated hemolymph is thrown back into the hemocoel. From here, the hemolymph, the deoxygenated hemolymph, it goes to the gills. Now in the gills, it is oxygenated. So when it is oxygenated, it is thrown back into the heart for the pumping action. So the heart, it pumps again this blood into the hemolymph, hemocoel, and from here it is taken by the organs. So this is a course of circulation. So we have the third aspect of open space in the open type of circulatory system. Now, these kind of systems, they are very simple. They are not complex. But as we have seen in the closed type of circulatory systems, those were complex systems. But open systems are simple systems. And they are pumping the blood into a hemocoel. Now this hemocoel is the cavity that holds the hemolymph fluid, from where the nutrients and the oxygen is taken up by the organs or the tissues. So in the first diagram, you can very well see that the heart, it is present inside a cavity, the blue cavity, which is called as the pericardial sinus. So sinus means, in the coming slides, I will be talking about sinus. What is pericardial? Peri refers to periphery. That means around. So what is pericardial? Cardial is cardiac, means heart. So this is around the heart, pericardial. So this is the sinus which is present around the heart. Now, this heart, it pumps the blood towards the back side. So it is not pumping the blood in the anterior side. It is pumping towards the posterior side. It is pumping towards upper side, and it is pumping towards the anterior ventral side. There is no aorta as such towards the anterior side. So it has got three kind of arteries. One is going towards the back side. One is going towards the anterior dorsal side, towards the eyes, and one is going towards the ventro-anterior side. And these arteries, they are putting this hemolymph into this sinus, the open space. So here, the organs, they use the oxygen and the nutrients, and this is coming back into the gills. This is the gill section for oxygenation, and from oxygenation, after this oxygenation process, the hemolymph is going into the pericardial sinus. So from the pericardial sinus, how the hemolymph it goes into the heart? Now this is a very, very important question. So if you see this particular diagram of crayfish, so the question is that how it is going into the heart from the pericardial sinus. So the answer is the ostia, the presence of ostia in the heart. So heart has got numerous, it can be species specific, it is species specific. So each species can have different number of ostia in their hearts. So these are small holes in the heart through which the hemolymph enters the heart from the pericardial sinus. So ultimately, from the pericardial sinus, the hemolymph enters the heart. Back it goes to the three arteries. Again, it is coming to the organs. Again, it is going to the gills and back to the pericardial sinus. So that was the course of circulation in case of the open type of circulatory systems. Now, what is the working strategy? I've already told you in the previous slide. In the case of mollusks and arthropods, the heart is pumping the hemolymph via vessels into the tissue spaces. So that we have discussed earlier, it is the hemocoel. So these are the tissue spaces that are sometimes enlarged into saccharine tissues, and eventually the hemolymph drains back to the heart. So this particular space is the hemocoel or the sinus, and from here the body cells, they get the tissue oxygenation and nutrients. In case of grasshopper, which is an arthropod, the dorsal tubular heart, it pumps the hemolymph into a dorsal aorta. Now here, if you see the diagram, here, this is the dorsal heart in the very center. It is a kind of tube-like heart. So in insects, we say it is a tubular chamber. And that is a tubular kind of heart. So it is chambered and it is tube-like. In case of cockroach, we have got 13 chambered heart. So in grasshopper also, we have got this the heart which is dorsal in position. So if you see this position of the heart, this is dorsal, that is on the upper side of the insect. So this heart, it pumps the blood towards the anterior side, towards the head part. So it has got here, this is the aorta. The heart, it pumps the blood into the aorta. It is going towards the head and to the organs and to the hemocoel. So this is the open space where the blood or the hemolymph, it goes after the pumping action of the heart. So the hemolymph, it empties into the hemocoel when the heart contracts. When the heart relaxes, I will be taking this aspect in the cockroach. Now here you can well see in the very lower diagram, can you see these valves, open spaces? So these are called as the ostia. So ostia are the open spaces. So these are the open spaces. So from these spaces, the hemolymph, it re-enters the heart. So heart, it again pumps the blood. So this is the course of circulation in case of insects. Now decapods, if you take the example of a decapod, they have got an open circulatory system and they have got a hemolymph which is colorless, and the hemolymph, it fills the body cavity, which is also called as the hemocoel, where it bathes the organs directly with oxygen and nutrients that we have discussed earlier also. So the decapod heart, it pumps the hemolymph initially through large arteries that supply the major organs to the brain and to the hemocoel, and the blood is moved into efferent sinuses that lead to the gills. So as we have discussed earlier, the circulatory mechanism, the used hemolymph will be taken up by the gills through the efferent sinuses. So those gills will oxygenate the blood or the hemolymph. Then it again goes into the heart through ostia. So that was the case. Now what are sinuses then? So open circulatory systems, they lack veins as such. So this is a very, very important thing. As in vertebrates, we have got arteries, then we have capillaries, then we have got veins that are taking the blood back into the heart. But here, there are no veins as such. So the hemolymph is returned to the heart through a series of efferent sinuses that ultimately join with a large mid-dorsal pericardial sinus. So we have very clearly studied this pericardial sinus in case of the crayfish in the previous slide. So from this pericardial sinus, the hemolymph will re-enter the heart through ostia. So sinuses are the open spaces. They may be many in a single animal. So these sinuses, they ultimately join to form the pericardial sinus. Now the blood pooled in this pericardial sinus is drawn into the heart through the ostia when the heart relaxes. So while diastole, this hemolymph will go back into the heart. So this slide is also giving you the concept of a sinus, that if this is the heart, it is giving blood into the aorta first of all, it is going to the hemocoel, so this is the open space, and this is the sinus. Here we have written the sinuses. So the organs will be taking the nutrients and it will be going back into the gills first of all, then they will go to the heart. So the heart will pump it again to the hemocoel. So this is a course of circulation. If you see in the lower diagram, this is a grasshopper again. This is the heart, which is chambered and it is tubular and it is having some holes which are the ostia. And when the heart pumps the blood, these ostia are closed. And this heart pumps the blood towards the anterior side. This blood goes to the brain and to the sinuses, which are present all around the alimentary canal. As you can very well see, this is the alimentary canal of the grasshopper. So here we have the hemolymph now after pushing of the heart. Now the blood is coming from the head side towards the back side. From here, it goes back to the heart through the ostia. As you can very well see, these arrows are going into ostia. Now here, the heart is relaxing. So when it is relaxing, it takes in the hemolymph. So again, when it relaxes, it takes the hemolymph. Again, the blood is going towards the anterior side. It's coming back into the heart. Again, it is pumped to the anterior side. It is coming back. It is again going into the heart. So this is the course of circulation. In case of the earthworms, we have got a closed type of system. So we'll not be taking here in the open type of systems. This is a bit of comparison of open and closed types. So you may get a question on, suppose you get a question on the circulatory system of earthworm. Then you should know what is the system inside an earthworm. If you get a question on circulatory system of a grasshopper or circulatory system of a cockroach, then you have to give only and only the concept of that particular system. Okay, now, so these are some of the examples of the open type of circulatory system. So there may be mollusks, there can be arthropods, there can be insects. Here we have the unio, the bivalve, we have got a crayfish, the prawn, we have got some insects. So all they have the open type of circulatory system. So all these animals, they have got a dorsal heart or the dorsal circulatory system. So as you can very well see in the lower diagram, this is the main circulatory system which is present on the dorsal side. And their nervous system, the yellow one, it is present in the ventral side. So circulatory system is dorsal and nervous system is ventral. So this is a very peculiar feature of invertebrates. Now, this is a very important diagram. You have to make it in the examination. So this is a very basic diagram. You can make it a good diagram from a book. You can take it from a good book. So what I want to show in this particular diagram, that the cockroach has got an open type of circulatory system, first of all. It has got a tubular heart. This is a tube-like heart. And along with this tube, we have got chambers also. So it has got 13 chambers. That means cockroaches, they have got 13 chambered heart. So their heart is chambered as well as tubular. So this is a very important point to note. Now each chamber has got some related muscles. Those are called as aliary muscles. So you can very well see it has been written, the aliary muscles. So these muscles, they control the contraction and the relaxation or systole and diastole of the heart chambers. Now this heart, it doesn't contract at the same time. So this is a very important point. Each chamber, it contracts at a different time. And the contraction wave it starts from the posterior side. So that means the end chambers, the 13th chamber at the posterior side will make the systole first of all. So it will be contracting at the first place. So when it is contracting, the ostia, they are closed and the blood is pumped to the next chamber. And then the next chamber contracts. The blood is pumped to the next chamber. So this is the first chamber to contract. Then when it pumps the blood to the next chamber, this chamber relaxes to some extent, and now this chamber has got the blood. It contracts, the blood goes to the next chamber, to the next, and to the next. So that's how the blood is pumped towards the anterior side. So this is a wave of contractions that is going on in the tubular chambered heart of the cockroach. So the iliary muscles, they are helping in these contractions, and they help in keeping the heart open. They are not tending the heart to be flaccid. So that is another function of the iliary muscles. So they keep the heart in position. So second was the iliary muscles. You all know about iliary muscles. Third are the ostia. Now where are the ostia present? So if you see this particular junction of two chambers, here is the position of the ostia. So here we have got ostia. Here we have got ostia, from where the blood will enter into the heart. Number 3. So we have written posterior to anterior. That means it will contract from the posterior side towards the anterior side. So the contraction wave is from posterior to anterior. And next point is the aorta. So this kind of a heart has got aorta and the anterior side. So we have written anterior aorta. So this is towards the anterior side. So it will take blood to the anterior side. The blood will go to the tissues. It will come back. And again the blood will go into the heart through the ostia. In each segment, it will go back into the ostia, into the heart. So the last point is very, very important, that there is no input from the posterior chambers or no input posteriorly. That means there is no vein that is coming towards the posterior chamber. It is closed. It is blind on the posterior end. So the hemolymph can enter the heart only through the ostia of different 13 chambers. So it is pumped again to the anterior side. It comes back and it re-enters the heart through ostia again. So this is the course of circulation in case of cockroach. So students, I think you are very much clear about the open and closed type of systems. So this particular diagram, it is showing some of the differences in the open and closed type of circulatory systems. So we have discussed earlier also. So if we see the open type of systems, there is no connection in between these vessels. So the blood will go directly to the tissues. But here in the closed systems, we have got the capillaries and we have got the definite connection in between the artery and the vein. So these are closed systems. So again, these diagrams, they are showing that there is no direct connection. The hemolymph is reaching the body cells directly, but here we have got the connections. So this is a closed system. So this slide is giving you the differences between a closed and open type of circulatory system. So we'll be taking all the points one by one. So the organs are not in direct contact of the blood, but in the open system we have the direct contact. The blood flow can be regulated and the pressure is high. But in open system, you cannot regulate the blood flow to an extent that can be regulated in the the closed type. And here the blood pressure is also low. Third point is that blood flows through closed spaces and have capillaries. But here the blood flows through the open spaces and we don't have the capillaries. In the closed type, the materials transported by the blood, it arrives to the tissues through diffusion. That means the tissues will be taking the oxygen or the required gas and the required nutrients simply by diffusion from the hemocoel. But in the open type, you have this system. In the closed system, you have a particular tendency that the blood capillaries will be taking the nutrient to the tissues. That nutrients will be coming out of the capillaries as they are very thin. So this is the diffusion. But in the open system, you have a direct contact of the tissue and the hemolymph. Now here in the closed system, animals, they have only one heart. But in open system, animals can have 1 or 2 hearts. Like in earthworms, you have got 8 hearts. So that depends upon the animals, it's the type of the animal. Now in the closed system, the oxygenated blood can reach the extremities of the body. That means the closed system can throw out the blood through the arteries or through the vessels to the very peculiar hind ends or the caudal ends of the animal. So as we have seen in the previous slides that the blood pressure is high and the blood can be thrown to higher extents. And it takes energy, that is very important thing. But in open type, the oxygenated blood, it can reach the hemocoel. So blood is thrown into an open space. It is not thrown into all the body parts of the insect. Now in the very last line, in the last point, we have the organisms with the closed system can metabolize much faster. But in open type, the oxygen, it requires more time to reach the extremities of the body. So the metabolic processes it may be slow as compared to the closed system, but for an open type of circulatory system animal, that system is, I think it is good enough to carry out all the metabolic processes. But here to compare, we can say that in the closed system, the oxygen is rapidly supplied to the target tissue. But in open system, there may be some delay. So students, those were the differences, and I think you are very much clear about the closed and open type of circulatory systems. So this can be one of the questions that you may have in your examinations. So you can go with the Prosser for this particular topic. You can go with Barrington. You can go with the Gardner for this topic. So from this particular topic, you can get a question like, discuss the circulatory system in cockroach, or discuss an open type of circulatory system. You can get some small question also like, what are sinuses? What are sinusoids? What is a hemocoel? What is hemolymph? So what are open spaces? What are ostia? What are tubular chambers? Or you can say tubular hearts. You can have a question on chambered hearts. So these are some of the questions that you can have in your examination from this topic. Thank you very much.